digestive system. And we divide our digestive system the same way we divide our respiratory system. Upper respiratory tract, lower respiratory tract, upper digestive tract, lower digestive tract. Upper digestive tract is what we do endoscopy for. So if you heard of a patient who went to the GI and they had an endoscopy, this endoscopy involves only the upper digestive tract. And when there is a colonoscopy involves the lower digestive tract. So we divide our digestive system into two regions based on the structure. So if you have an organ in your digestive tract, you bet it's either part of the upper digestive tract or part of the lower digestive tract. Then when we look at our digestive system, we see that we can actually divide it based on the function. So some part of our digestive system is only responsible for ingestion, bringing things inside our body. Some other region in your digestive system is responsible for digestion, chopping up, churning, breaking down food into pieces. Some other region does not have to do with ingestion or digestion. It has to do with absorption, bringing in the food from your digestive system into the blood, bringing in the food from your digestive system into the blood. And then you have another region that does not participate in ingestion, does not participate in digestion, does not participate in absorption, and rather participates in secretion. And then there is a last region that is responsible for excretion, removing the waste. So we do not look at our systems in our body, the urinary system, the cardiovascular system, and the respiratory system, the digestive system. We don't just look at them structurally, architecturally. We look at them also functionally. And we divide them, we break them down into compartments. A compartment is a localized structural place that has a function. So obviously the hospital is a compartment. So it looks like a hospital structurally, architecturally, and it has a function to receive the patient, treat the patient, and discharge the patient. Police precincts, they look like a police precinct. They are responsible of bringing in criminals, processing the criminals, and sending the criminals to the court or to the prison. So the same thing with your systems. Your systems are able to do their function because they are compartmentalized. They are broken down into separate, although working together, all these different parts of your bodily system, they work together, but they are distinct. Your tongue and your oral cavity, although it's part of your digestive system, it's distinct and different from your esophagus. Your esophagus, although it's part of your digestive system, it is separate and distinct from the stomach. The stomach is separate and distinct from your small intestine. The small intestine is separate and distinct from the large intestine. The large intestine is separate and distinct from the rectum or the anal canal. But all of them work together for one job, and that is to achieve homeostasis. So the same way in the society, the hospital is in a place that's different than a police precinct, which is different than a school, that is different than a shopping mall. But even though they're all separate and distinct, They work together to make the society a functional society. So your digestive system, although it's part of multiple organ systems, your digestive system, as we will see, is going to be connected to your nervous system. Okay, how does your stomach start to contract, and how does your stomach start to churn and chop this food apart? It's because it receives action potentials. It receives from your nervous system electrical stimulation that causes it to contract. And while your stomach contracts, that causes your food to be churned and chopped up. What causes the food go down your esophagus? These are also electrical stimuli that come from your brain that respond to this distension, the distension of the food in your esophagus. There's like a ripple effect movement, like waves that propel the food downward. So we see that the digestive system does not work on its own. It's associated with the nervous system. It is associated obviously with the blood system, because that stomach, that esophagus, that intestine needs blood. It needs blood because the blood gives that digestive system tissue oxygen. The blood gives the digestive system nutrients. The blood removes from the digestive system all the metabolic waste that is building up. So our systems do not exist in isolation. They have limited autonomy, but they have to cooperate with the other systems of your body. So we begin by first identifying that we have an upper digestive tract, UDT, and we have a lower digestive tract. That's structurally. So structurally, we have an upper digestive tract and a lower digestive tract. The upper digestive tract is where we do an endoscopy. So we put a camera that goes through your mouth, and that is the oral cavity. Then after through your mouth, we go into the pharynx, and then we go into the esophagus, and then we go down the esophagus to the stomach. And while we're going, we're taking photos of the nature of those cells that line your esophagus. Somebody's smoking the cigarette, somebody's smoking the weed. How does that gonna affect the esophagus? You see, this nicotine, when it goes down, you guys are laughing. When the nicotine of the smoke is going down in your oral cavity, that nicotine is touching these simple epithelial cells that are lining up your oral cavity, that are lining up your esophagus. Do you think they have no effect on these cells? Do you think they have no effect on your esophagus? That smoke, of course it does. It changes these cells from normal cells into cancer cells. So the camera's going and taking photo and taking small bites, taking small snips from the walls of your esophagus. And then we look in the microscope. That is known as a biopsy. We take a biopsy to examine in the microscope what is happening to these cells. Are these cells deranged? Are they stressed? Are they defected? Then we move down into the stomach and we take another biopsy from the stomach to see if this stomach has any form of infection, has any form of inflammation. Is there any cancer or change in the cellular structure? Then we go up to the upper part of your intestine, known as the duodenum, and that is the end of your upper respiratory tract. Then we come right back up. So your upper respiratory tract is, I'm sorry, your upper digestive tract is your oral cavity, your oral cavity, and that is the mouth, the tongue, and then we move down to the esophagus, and then after the esophagus, we enter the stomach. Then after the stomach, we go to the upper part of the small intestine known as the duodenum. Then that is the end of the upper digestive tract. The lower digestive tract is going to be the rest of the intestine, the ileum, the cecum, and the rectum, which includes your anal canal. So if we want to investigate what's happening in the upper digestive tract, we perform an endoscopy. And if we want to investigate what's happening in the lower digestive tract, we perform colonoscopy. Because all of that is the colon, the small intestine and the large intestine. The ileum, the cecum, then these two are part of your small intestine. Then you have the ileum, the cecum, and then in the end you have your colon or your large intestine. And this colon and large intestine will obviously end with the rectum, which is a part of your large intestine.
Wait, what does that word say on top?
Where?
Yeah, the first one.
Ileum. That is a part of your ileum. That is part of your small intestine. So, if we want to investigate the lower digestive tract, we perform colonoscopy.
Ileum what?
Ileum cecum. C-E-C-U-M. Cecum. Okay, so what do we do in our investigation? We take a biopsy. What's a biopsy? What is a biopsy? We take a sample from the tissue of your esophagus, tissue of your stomach, tissue of your duodenum, which is the upper part of the intestine. That is upper intestine. That is upper intestine. What's a biopsy? Yeah. And then what do we investigate? How does it look like under the microscope? And then we investigate if the tissue is damaged or not, or if the tissue is cancerous. Then the same thing is done, but is known as a colonoscopy if we are targeting the lower digestive tract. Now, do we all see our oral cavity? Do we see our tongue? This is our mouth, that's our tongue, and then this is long tube. So on the lab practical, if we point to what this is obviously the esophagus. And then after the esophagus, you have your stomach. So you have the stomach, and so the stomach is not shown here, but the stomach lies here, and this is the duodenum. This region right here. This is the duodenum that is a continuation. So this region right here is the duodenum. So we need like a sac or a bag here that represents the stomach, and right after the stomach begins your small intestine with the duodenum. The small intestine begins with the duodenum. The small intestine begins with the duodenum, which is right here. then it continues, and you're gonna have in order your ileum, then your cecum, and then you're gonna have this blue part, this outer part. So the intestine, you have the small intestine in the middle. This is your small intestine. Then the outer blue, really big tube, that is your large intestine. And then you end here, this is the anal canal. So for endoscopy, I put the camera through the oral cavity, through the esophagus, then through the stomach, and I end where? Where do I end? Where do I end my endoscopy trip, my journey? Where do I end?
The top of your stomach. Duodenum.
I begin here, 1 oral cavity, 2 esophagus, 3 the stomach, and 4. Where do I end number 4? It's written right here. Where do I end number 4?
Duodenum.
Then for colonoscopy, it's the opposite. I do not put my camera here. I put it here, down here, and then I move up. Then I move upward. You guys are laughing. I put my camera here in colonoscopy. I put my camera here in the oral cavity. In my colonoscopy, I put it underneath, and then I go through my large colon. I go through my large intestine, then down the other way around. I begin with my rectal canal, then the colon, the large intestine, then the cecum, then the ileum, then the upper part, then the lower part of the duodenum, then I pull it back out. And while I'm doing that, I'm using my camera to see if there's any colon cancer. That's how they detect if there's colon cancer, and that's how they take biopsies. Okay, so that's a division that is structural. You see, we have structurally here. But remember, we do not only divide structurally, we also divide functionally. Functionally. We also divide functionally. So functionally, I have regions that are important for ingestion, and who is responsible for ingestion? That is my oral cavity and my tongue. They ingest and they bring in the food inwardly. Then I have digestion, and that is divided into physical digestion, like a blender, like chopping up, and that is done with your teeth. Your teeth are part of your digestive system. So they cut down and they chop up the food. So there is physical digestion performed by the teeth. And there is also chemical digestion. There is physical digestion and there is chemical digestion. Physical digestion is performed by your teeth and it is performed by your stomach. So how does your teeth digest the food physically? By blending it like a blender, chopping it up, cutting it up. That's why you bite the sandwich and you cut it into pieces. Then you have your stomach. Your stomach is crushing, churning the food. So the teeth are cutting down the food and the stomach is churning, compressing the food. So that's physical digestion. Then in the end, you end up with a mushy type of bolus. So the food has been cut up with your teeth. The food has been crushed with your stomach into very gooey, very sticky food. Does that mean the food has been digested?
No.
Of course not. Now you need chemical digestion. Chemical digestion is performed with enzymes. So you have enzymes that break down carbohydrates. So if you eat pancakes, carbohydrates. If you eat pancakes, you're gonna have to have some enzymes that break down carbohydrates. If you eat steak, protein, then you're gonna have to have a different set of enzymes that break down these proteins. So the set of enzymes who will break down proteins are going to be different than the set of enzymes who will break down carbohydrates. And if you eat steak, if you eat the steak, or if you eat chicken, then that's fat, that's lipid. So you're going to have different class of enzymes to break down the lipids. So the lipids are broken down by enzymes. Remember, the enzymes usually end with ACE. Remember peroxidase? Peroxidase. So the enzymes that chemically digest this steak that you eat, which is a lipid and a fat, these are known as lipases. Lipases. The enzymes that break down the proteins, these are known as peptidases. These are known as peptidases. And the enzymes that break down carbohydrates, example of that would be the amylase. So now your food has been successfully not only digested physically, chopped up, cut up, churned up, it has now been digested chemically. So now we don't have big polymers of sugar, we have monomers of sugar. Now we don't have big peptides of protein, now we have amino acids. Now we don't have big lipids, we have triglycerol, we have glycerols, and we have free fatty acids. So now I have successfully cut down the food. So now, after I digest it, what do I do now? Absorb it into the blood. So after digestion comes absorption. So that tells you it is really not very precise when you call the digestive system because it does more than digestion. It digests and it ingests and it absorbs. So now let's say you are drinking milk, and this milk you are lactose intolerant. So you cannot break down lactose into its building blocks that are absorbable, known as galactose and glucose. So you're going to end up diarrheaing all of that milk. So can you now say that milk made it to your blood? Because remember, just because the food is in your digestive system does not mean that the food made it to your blood. Remember, all the food has to be absorbed to the circulation. So we have to absorb all of the food products into the circulation. Just because you have glucose in your intestine, you have glycerol in your intestine, you have amino acids in your intestine, it doesn't mean you have it in your blood. Just because you have money in the bank does not mean you have it in your pocket. You have to be able to withdraw it. So now this absorption is the most important step, because absorption allows us to take the food from the digestive system into the blood. Why? Why do we need to absorb the food from the digestive system into the blood? So the blood can transfer it to the tissue. So the blood can take this food to the tissue. Why are we eating? Why are we eating? We're eating so that we can break down the bonds in those nutrients that we eat. We have bonds, and these bonds we catabolize them. We metabolize them. So we cannot metabolize if we don't have the food. So we need to absorb it. Yes.
Where does it take it? It takes it from the digestive system and puts it to the tissues?
To the blood. So here is the digestive system. That's the first box. That is digestive system. That's your digestive system. That is your, this is the digestive system, and this is your circulatory system. And this is your tissue. And this is your tissue. So we eat the food, and we have to absorb the food into the circulatory system. Then the circulatory system, the blood, is going to deliver all the food to our tissue. You see these dots? Meaning they are nucleus. These dots represent cells. All of these are cells. These are cells. These are cells. So because I have the food in my intestine, I have all of my amino acids. These are my amino acids. These are my amino acids that I got from my protein breakdown. Then I have my carbohydrate breakdown products. These are your glucose. You have your glucose, and you have your amino acids, and you have your lipid breakdown products. These are your glycerol and the free fatty acids, but they are in the bank. They are in the bank account. You cannot use them yet. So you need to absorb them. That is absorption. Absorption. ABS. Absorption. So we need to absorb all of the food that is in the bank, in our digestive system, into the blood. Then the blood is going to ship it to the tissue. Then the tissue is going to receive and take all of the amino acids and the glucoses into the cells, and then the cells are going to be able to make ATP from them. Then this is going to be metabolism. Metabolism. We can finally do metabolism. Metabolism is shopping when you get the good stuff. But you're never going to get metabolism unless you have your building blocks. You have your micromolecules. So, like what I was telling you with people who have lactose intolerance. People who have lactose intolerance drink milk. But the enzymes that break down milk into absorbable building blocks are not working. So now milk cannot make it into the blood cannot carry it into the tissue. So this phase here is absorption. Is when we absorb the food from the bank account, from our digestive system into our blood. So many people, when they take a tablet, 500 milligram, do you think the whole 500 milligrams is going to go into the blood?
No.
No, only about 100, and the 400 are going to be excreted.
What?
That 100 that made it to your blood, that is the bioavailable portion of the tablet that made it to your blood. That's what's going to transfer in your blood tissue, to the tissue. That is what your tissue is going to get, because that was successfully absorbed. So we are so concerned with absorption. So you see, when you say that the digestive system, it isn't really a digestive system. It's all in one. It's ingestion, digestion, absorption, and what is the last phase? What do you do after you ingest, digest, absorb, and what do you do when you do number 2?
You excrete it out.
That's excretion. That's the last part of your digestive system. So why don't we call the digestive system the ingestion system, the digestion system, the absorption system, the excretion system? Because it does all of that. So it's not just a one system, it's multiple systems. It was unfairly called the digestive system, but it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 systems in one. That is excretion of negative metabolic waste. So we excrete all of the waste out. So here we ingest all the good stuff plus. We ingest all the good stuff, your proteins, your carbohydrates, your lipids. Then in digestion, we chop them up from really big pieces. There is physical, mechanical digestion done with your teeth and your stomach, cutting, churning into pieces. And then there is chemical digestion, where we now break down.
What's the circle with the thing?
Okay, I will tell you when I get there. And then we have chemical digestion, and that is when we break apart these polypeptides into really small pieces. And then after that, we absorb. We absorb all of this amino acid that we digested. We absorb all of the lipids and the fatty acids and the glycerol and the amino acids and the glucose. And then after we absorb it, the circulatory system, the blood, is going to deliver it to our tissue, and our tissue is going to be able to perform metabolism. And in the end, all of the waste that could not be digested, all of the waste that should not be digested is going to be excreted out, and then the cycle has ended. Okay. Does anybody have a question? Yes, anybody has a question? Okay. Does anybody have a question? Okay. Now I get to ask. So this digestive system, we can classify based upon how many different classifications. The first one we said is structure. So structurally, what can I divide this digestive system into? Please raise your hand. If I want to look at my digestive system, right here structurally, just by structure, not by function, what do I divide it into?
The upper.
Hold on. Yes.
The upper digestive tract and the lower digestive tract.
Excellent. So we have the upper digestive tract and the lower digestive tract. Go, Sana. Upper digestive tract. How do we do the diagnostics if we want to find out if this patient has esophageal cancer, or if this patient has stomach cancer, or if this patient has some form of a fissure or bleeding in their stomach or an ulcer? What do we do? Endoscopy. Excellent. Endoscopy. Now let's say I want to find out that if the patient has colon cancer, or if the patient has fissures and ulceration, raise your hand, fissures and ulcerations in their colon or in their intestine or in their rectal canal, or if they have some sort of coagulated blood and they have hemorrhoids and they have vascular what do we do? Yes, Zara. Yeah.
No, it's colonoscopy.
It's not colonoscopy. Colonoscopy. Excellent, Zara. Excellent. Okay, next question. So that was structurally. Now structurally, I want you to name for me the boundaries that define for me my upper digestive tract. So you should say the upper digestive tract begins with 1, 2, 3, and 4. What are they?
Oral.
Yes. Please raise your hand. Yes.
The oral cavity, the esophagus,
Excellent. The oral cavity, the esophagus, the stomach, and the duodenum. Okay, you're gonna see that one a lot. Okay, so there's a duodenal ulcer always come with stomach ulcer. The people that they have H. pylori infection, or the people that drink the alcohol is gonna cause some form of like an ulceration. Okay, and the lower digestive tract. What does it begin and end with? Rachel.
I can't say that one.
The ileum.
Ileum. It begins with that, and then it ends with the rectum.
It ends with the rectum, but you have to tell me that the ileum and
Then the
cecum,
cecum,
and both of those are my small
intestine.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other ones were other large intestines. The other ones are
The colons,
and the rectum.
the rectum, yeah. And it's not the small intestines. There's only one small intestine. Yeah, good. Okay, very good. And what do I investigate? We said colonoscopy. Okay, so that was structurally, functionally. You know the school, the down floor, the bottom floor, that's HR and administration and the offices, and the top floor, that's the classrooms, right? So that is a form of a structural. That's a structural classification. So one place that looks different. So over there they have a lot of offices, computers, offices, computers, and on the top you have classrooms.
I know you can find that in HR.
Maybe they have a lot of they need a lot of proteins.
He's very into what he's teaching.
Okay, and then hold up, and then functionally, so obviously on the first floor you're not gonna see like lecture halls and labs, because that's not the function. The function down there is for like some paperwork. So you're gonna see a lot of papers down there and computers and offices, but up here you're gonna see labs and models, because that's the function of what's up here. So now when we look at the digestive system, no more structurally, now functionally. We said that it may be a little ambiguous to call the digestive system, because it's actually more than that. So what are the functional classifications of my digestive system? Yes, number one.
Ingestion, digestion. It's two different types of digestion: physical and chemical, absorption and excretion.
Is it absorption or absorption?
I don't know. You tell me.
Absorption, there's a T in there, don't forget it. Very good. Excellent. Okay, ingestion. What is ingestion? Define ingestion. Yes.
The oral cavity and then your mouth cutting the food.
No.
The teeth cutting the food.
That is not ingestion. That is digestion. The teeth cutting the food is coming from this arrow.
Or the oral cavity
No.
and
Look here. Digestion, physical digestion, teeth. So teeth are part of digestion. They're
That's
not
my
ingestion.
mistake.
What is ingestion?
Oral cavity and the tongue.
Hold on, you got your chance. Yes. Yeah. So that is the stroking of the food, throwing the food back. When the food goes back into your when throwing the food back, that's ingestion. You're eating it. Yeah. When you're shoving, that carpet from Aladdin. The carpet. Yeah, that's ingestion. Bringing the food inward. And also your nose is part of your digestive system. Ever heard of the intubation that they feed the people through the nose? Yeah, it's part of it too. I did not put that up there.
Wait, if you're under tubes, you get fed with the tube through your nose?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. So that your nasal, I forgot to put that. Your nasal cavity is part of your digestive system. We don't use it, but when you become 80 years old, you're going to use it.
And what's that? Is it for oxygen though?
It's also for oxygen, because remember, your throat is shared by both. It's shared by your digestive system.
They both put on the same.
Yeah. So when we want air, if you have like a surgery, your anesthesia, you're not breathing no more with your mouth, so they put an intubation tube and then they link it to your trachea and air goes in. And then when you're so old you can't swallow because some form of dementia, then they put this feeding tube through your nose, but it's still gonna go down through your esophagus because we have the same inlet for both, shared by both your digestive system and respiratory system.
What's that for? Cause you know how like the ones that are like right here for like ileus.
Yeah, that is a colostomy tube. These are the people that have.
It's like a pouch.
Yeah, it's not they don't poop in it. That's the poop comes out there.
Yeah, I know.
So because they cannot excrete it, the excretion.
Is it like a
What about the
catheter?
people
Is
that have
it
the one
it's
here?
almost like a catheter? No.
It's not yeah, it's like a catheter, but catheter is for urine. It is not for food dump.
And
You
so
guys
we
have
the
done.
one here.
You guys went so far away. That's good. Yeah.
Did you watch Grey's Anatomy?
I do not watch Grey's Anatomy. I've heard of that, but I don't know what.
He's called a doctor, but he never watched Grey's Anatomy.
I'd rather read a book. Okay. All right. We have went so far to Grey's Anatomy. Now let's come back to digestion. We said digestion is there is physical digestion, which is churning, part of physical or chemical digestion. No shame.
Churning.
Oh, that's not good.
What does churning?
Why were you in the Yankee Stadium when I asked the question?
They lost.
Sorry.
No, you gotta be here. I call on you any minute. Okay, churning is churning part of the yes. That's physical digestion. Excellent. Where does churning happen? In the mouth or in the stomach?
What's in the whole churning?
Churning is like chopping up, like compressing things. Yeah, churning. Okay, and
What's the second thing you put there? Churning, and then you put something.
compressing.
Compressing.
Compressing. Okay. Then what is chemical digestion? Why do I need chemical digestion? Why can't I just blend things up and cut them up into like really tiny churned up pieces? And why do I still need chemical digestion? Yes. So polypeptides. What about carbohydrates? Yeah. So there's a set of enzymes for each. There's a set of enzymes to break down big carbohydrates into little glucose. Set of enzymes to break big proteins into little amino acids. Set of enzymes to break down lipids into little fat products. Okay, then after digestion, I have digested everything. I have digested it physically, digested it chemically, and chemical digestion. Physical digestion happens in the stomach. Chemical digestion happens in the intestine. And so does absorption. What does absorption mean?
Taking the nutrients out of it. You're absorbing.
So you see this box? That's a perfect illustration of what absorption is. So if you look, we have 3 boxes. If you want to define what absorption is, you have to mention the 3 boxes. Absorption is when we absorb and take the food breakdown products from the digestive system into the blood. Then we take from the blood the food into the tissue. So it's when we're transferring. Like when you go to the airport, you pick somebody up, then you drive them in the highway, then you get them to the house. Then you have absorbed them. Yeah.
Would the tissue be under the circulatory system?
The tissue is not part of the circulatory system. Is your house part of the subway system?
No.
The subway gets you to your house. So the circulatory system is your blood system that gets the food to you and takes all the waste from you. So absorption happens where? Where does the absorption happen? Where does absorption happen? In the intestine, yeah. So the tissue would pick it up, but who absorbed it? Who did the 3? Taking it from the blood, taking it from the digestive system into the blood, that is your... Yeah, and the large one, no. The large one excretes it, yes. But the large one is mainly for water. Water reabsorption. We don't want to lose water. Why do we not want to lose water? Because the blood volume is going to drop. And you're going to have hypovolemia. And you're going to have low blood volume. That means your heart rate is going to drop. Heart rate drop. The contractility is going to drop. the cardiac output is gonna drop, the blood pressure is gonna drop, then you're gonna have hypotension, then you're gonna die. So we want to make sure that you remain hydrated. So you have the whole colon, just a